Okay, so it is 10 a.m. already. Pak Zul, could we start this international conference?
Okay, please, Bu Cindy.
Okay, so good day, everyone. Thank you for coming to the second day of international virtual course of Introduction to Volcano Monitoring using recent technology. Okay, for today, we will have Dr. Devy Kamil Syahbana. He's from Geological Agency, and he will talk about volcano seismology for eruption forecasting. So for today, actually, we will have a short break of 10 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes for every 30 minutes to avoid Zoom fatigue. And during the short break, you could ask a question during the short breaks. Okay. So maybe for no further ado, please, Pak Devy, time is yours. Okay. You could share your screen, Pak Devy.
Okay. Share my screen. Not this one. Okay. Can you see my slides?
Yes.
Okay. I have 53 slides. Okay. So is it good for everyone?
Okay. Perfectly, Pak Devy.
Okay. First of all, thank you for the ITV for doing this international virtual course. And good morning, or maybe for those who are in Indonesia, and maybe good evening for people in the American continent, or very early in the morning for those in Europe. So today I will give a lecture about volcanoseismology for eruption forecasting, principally based on our experience and also from the scientific community in the world, that what we have learned from our past and what would be helpful for us to forecast eruption through volcanoseismology. So before we start with the presentation, I would like to introduce myself. So my name is Devy Kamil Syahbana. Currently, I'm a researcher at the Center for Volcanology and Geological Hazards of Indonesia. And so I started my bachelor in physics, and I finished my PhD in volcanoseismology, a specialty in Université Libre de Bruxelles in Brussels, Belgium. And I also have a chance to continue a postdoctoral project in Germany. So mainly also for volcanoseismology, but also with the geothermal exploration. So mostly most of my works are related to volcanoseismology. I'm sorry for everyone. I need to drink because I feel dry. Okay. So sorry, there is a toe. So the lecture content will be very simple. I would like to give you an introduction about volcanoseismology, and also I would like to introduce to you to seismic events at volcanoes and how we will use this to forecast eruptions, and also in the fourth areas I will talk about the uncertainties, and in the final slides I will give some discussion. So the first question is, can we forecast volcanic eruptions? That's the main questions. So can we forecast volcanic eruptions? If you have seen this movie, the answer is yes, we can. We can do the forecast. So that's the message of the Dante's Peak movie. If you haven't seen the movie, you have to see it. So it's a volcanologist movie. So we are represented by Pierce Brosnan here. So but yeah, there are some errors on the movie, but the one of the good messages that we can forecast the eruptions. So why we can forecast the eruption? So it's because difference from earthquakes or other geological hazards. The volcanic hazard or volcanic eruption provides some precursors. It is because when magma or hydrothermal fluids moving to the surface prior to the eruption, they will disrupt or change the physical environment around them. And thus it will provide an opportunity for us, for volcanologists, to monitor the changes that occur before an eruption. Or sometimes these changes will not be ended by an eruption. But the keyword of this slide is that what we monitor is changes. So in volcanic activities, whether it is decreasing or increasing, we need to know if the activity is changing or not. And then the further question will be, what will the activity lead to? Lead to an eruption or lead to a non-eruptive activity? So, and then this is the how we simplify how we forecast the how we simplify the image to show you how we forecast volcanic eruptions. So in the first step, we are like a doctor. So we have to monitor first the patient. The patient is not a human, it's a volcano. So we monitor this volcano. So we have a stethoscope and also to measure the heartbeat. It's like on a volcano, it's a seismometer. And then we have another instrument, medical instruments, to scan what is happening inside the body of a person. So that's what our job also. We have to know what is exactly happening inside the volcano. So like human, in fact, if a man or a woman they feel sick, there will be changes in their activities or in their body, in the physical properties of him or her. And the heartbeat might be changing, and you might have some inflammation, and you might have a changing blood content. So at volcanoes, it's also similar. The heartbeat is the seismicity And if you have like inflammation, it's like an inflation of the body of the volcano. And if something is changing with your blood, it's like on a volcano, it's like you have a changes in the chemical properties of the water or either gas, something like that. And when we monitor this over time, it will give us opportunity to see if we have some different symptoms from one time to another. So if we see that there are similar symptoms occur every time, that we call it background. But if it is changing, then something is happening, and that might be an unrest in volcanic terminology. So for example, if you have like normally like 1 to 2 volcanic earthquakes happens every day, then that's the background. But if then it's on another day you have like more than 2 volcanic earthquakes, it's increasing from 2 to 3 to 5 to 10 and even to hundreds of or thousands, then something is happening inside the volcano, and we call it an unrest. And after we define, after we could define or we could assess that there is something inside the volcano, then it means that we have understand that we have defined an unrest. But then the later question is that what will the unrest lead to? Because an unrest is not always followed by an eruption. In fact, more unrest or most unrest are not followed by an eruption. So that's a big difficulty in in volcanology. And those forecasting is possible, but difficult. So when we would like to forecast, we're not only seeing our data, but we have to also see the database of previous activities. If you don't have the database from previous activities of this volcano, then you can have another database. For example, if it is the case of a human, you can see another patient that have similar symptoms to this guy. For example, this guy have a fever and then coughing, and you see another case in other patients with similar symptoms. So at volcanoes, we do it the same thing. So we have to see the database of volcanic eruptions or volcanic unrest at other volcanoes or similar volcanoes with similar type of activities. And other than that, we have also we must also try to get the second opinion. So because if you see the data and then you learn about the database, it means that you work alone. But sometimes you will need an expert elicitation. So it means that the expert will give you another expert will give you a second opinion about your analysis. And this is important because the good analysis is not coming from one voice decision. It's coming from a critical processes. So you need like when you want to publish a paper, there is a reviewer. So this expert elicitations act like a reviewer. So that you have to be reviewed with what you analyzed. And by doing this, the outcome will be in the form of a good decision making. And this decision making is in Indonesia and in other countries is in the form of volcanic alert level, or VAL. So this volcanic alert level will then disseminated to people around the volcano, and to give them early warnings or early signs and also directions what they have to do during this alert level. So that's the process of how we forecast volcanic eruptions. So it's not a very simple process. There are many processes that we have to pass. But today we will not talk about all of them because it will require more days, I think. So today we will talk about the first and the second steps on this slide, and then an example of some forecasting examples. So we will continue. So the key, the first or the fundamental aspect of forecasting is monitoring. So if you want to forecast, what will happen to this patient, then you need to monitor them over time. So also at volcanoes, how to monitor volcanoes, we have to monitor them over time. Monitoring volcanoes is a continuous activity. You cannot stop only with on like 1 month of data and then interpreting all of the data on the volcano. But you have also you need to monitor them over time. It will help you to have to understand the background of the activity, and also to estimate different types of activities, because one volcano with the same volcano over time, it may produce different activities. So for example, volcano A may erupt violently at one time, and then afterwards it will erupt only small eruptions, small explosions. So that's possible. So even with one volcano, you will not have only one outcome. It can be so many outcomes. So therefore, we have to monitor this volcano over time. And there are several monitoring techniques that have been developed in the past, I think around 100 years. So in general, these are the methods that we use currently to monitor volcanoes. So this is the visual, there are visual observations of the crater and the surroundings. So we use cameras or CCTVs, or even with drone imaging. So we would like to see what changes over time in the visual aspect of the volcano, like the crater. And another one is seismicity. So because magma is moving over time at volcanoes, and they produce seismicity. So as magma produces seismicity, we have to know whether this seismicity is a background seismicity or unrest seismicity. So we need to monitor them over time. And the third one is deformation methods. So deformation methods, the idea is that when magma pushing from the bottom, and then is trying to move to the surface, it gives more pressure. And this pressure will increase the volumetric changes inside the volcano. And so that the deformation is will happen. Deformation can be in the form of inflation, but also deflation. And inflating and deflating volcano is like something that is common that we observe over time. And also we currently monitor the temperature. So changes in temperature over time is also monitored. And another aspect is the geochemical composition of gas and water mostly. Because prior to the eruptions, these methods will help you to define what happened over time. And it is not a choice. So like visual observation, seismicity, deformation, temperature, and geochemical composition, they are all complementary. So if we have all of these methods, then it's better options. But if you don't have so many options, then at least we have a visual and seismic monitoring. That was the minimum requirement for monitoring volcanoes. And currently, this monitoring activity can be done in the ground, or we can do it also in remote sensing. So our main focus in this lecture is we would like to talk about the earthquakes or the volcanic earthquakes that caused by the magma movement prior to the eruptions, and how we will use this to forecast eruptions. So first, yesterday, I think Professor Andri have already given you the definition of volcanoseismology. So I will give you anyway. So volcanoseismology is a study of vibrations resulting from volcanic processes like magma or hydrothermal fluid movements. And why we learn volcanoseismology, one of the advantages that it's a remote sensing method. It means that we don't have to be on the volcano every time to monitor seismicity of a volcano. We just need to install them and then put them there, and we will monitor them from our place. And why also volcanoseismology? Because changes in seismicity are often one of the earliest detectable precursors. So most volcanic eruptions preceded by changes in seismicity. Maybe only like phreatic eruptions that is like hard to get or to detect the precursors at the moment. And we reasonably understood the precursory patterns. For some of you who don't understand yet the precursory patterns, I will give it to you just in the next slides. And why volcanoseismology? Also because it has a reasonable cost. So the result per cost ratio is good because seismic activities at volcanoes and seismic monitoring always give you a better insight to understand the states of the volcanic activity. And it's in real time also. So what we have learned from the past, so if we wonder how long have this volcanoseismology evolved over time, it's been a very long time. So in fact, and if you see that in the past, at least from the 18th century, they have already tried to monitor seismicity at volcanoes. And Scrope in 1825 have already found that eruptions are preceded by earthquakes. So that's as early as 1825. And different types of volcano-seismic event exist. So people have, or scientists have recognize that there are different seismic events at volcanoes, different from tectonic earthquakes. For tectonic earthquakes, there is only one mechanism, double couple mechanism, but in volcanic areas, you have double couple and also non-double couple events. So it has been recognized at least since Palmieri in 1856. And then who found like there is a continuous tremor, which is different with like a tectonic type earthquake. Then Omori in 1912, and then also Chagar in 1920, Minakami in 1960, Latter in 1979, McNutt in 1996, and Zobin in 2003, and many others. In fact. So there are classes, different classes of volcanic seismic events recognized. And for volcanoseismic events, it needs to be recorded on multiple instruments. So they will, why would they need to be recorded? Because it is important to know if it is a source effect or not a source effect. For example, like an event may be triggered by superficial activities that is not related at all to eruption or to volcanic activity. So to clarify that, we need to install multiple instruments, because an earthquake will provide a body wave that will be recorded at multiple instruments or multiple nearby or near field stations. And that's already been recognized since 1920 by Cross. And seismic also in later, one of the earliest findings is about seismic noise. Not only the seismic events, so the noise or the non-events signals at volcanoes may infer deformation inside the volcano. That was one of the pioneer study was from Indonesia, Ratdomo Purbo and Pupine in 1995. And then it was developed, and you can see from Brenge in 2008. It has been extensively studied and developed, and it is showing that a promising technique that can help us predict or forecast an eruption. So, and changes in seismic noise is changes in the seismic velocity over time. So decreasing seismic velocity will, it's like inferring the inflation inside the volcano. So then when we could monitor that over time, in real time, it will be helpful for us to estimate whether what kind of process that happened inside the volcano. So, and then another technique about volcano seismology is estimation of eruption volume from seismic energy. For example, it's like Randy White and Wendy McCausland in 2016. Also, Masato Iguchi recently published a paper in 2019. So using the seismic energy or seismic moments, we may estimate the eruption or the intruded volume of magma. And transition of seismicity observed prior to eruptions. So there are transitions, common transitions observed prior to eruptions. This has been published by McNutt in 1996, also McCausland et al. 2018 recently. And another recent findings is about the long period seismicity to forecast the style of volcanic eruptions. So while other seismicity may provide you insights into the size or the magnitude of the eruption, the possible eruption, or the magnitude of the intruded volume, another technique of the long period seismicity is that you may have a chance to forecast the style of volcanic eruptions. because eruptions is not only magmatic, you can have magmatic, phreatomagmatic, or even phreatic. And to do that, you need to do an analysis at the analysis of the long period seismicity. Kumagai and Shui, and also myself in 2014 have published and to show that long period seismicity with the complex frequency analysis, we may forecast the type of the fluids inside the volcano. So if we could forecast the type of the fluid, then we may have a good chance to forecast what type of eruptions it will provide. So that's only some points. There are many more. I could not mention. There are more findings, and you can have you can search them out in Google Scholar or other. So the keyword is that volcanoseismology could help in forecasting volcanic eruptions. So that's why we will talk about this now. So I will go back to the first slide of my presentation. So this is what we see in the beginning. So what normal people see about this volcano is that sometimes they feel afraid if they are there, or sometimes they feel fascinated by the eruptions, take the pictures and selfies. But how or what the seismologists or volcanologists see on this activity is like this. So, and you see that what happens inside a volcano is what matters for us. So, and we see that inside the volcano you have like channels of you have like chambers, not chambers like that. You have a big reservoir deep beneath, and then you have like a conduit moving up, and then you have like a shallower pocket of magma, and then there is a brittle to transition, fluid transition. So, and then in this zones, it will when magma passes that, then it will provide earthquakes. So, and then so when magma moving to the surface, we will have the signature or the signals of earthquakes. So that's because we know that it will provide it will produce earthquakes. We will learn about these earthquakes. But to do that, we need a good seismic monitoring system and analysis. So to increase our forecast accuracy, because if we have like one seismic station, it is not bad, but you will have limited techniques or limited information on the volcanic activity. If you can provide more than 4 seismic stations, then you may have more insights of what's happening inside the volcano. So how to monitor this? First is the site selection. So the site selection is important when you want to install the seismometers. So several parameters usually considered like a geographic region of interest. So what volcanoes that you are interested in, you need to choose, and then you have to learn about the seismogeological conditions of the area, and also the topographic conditions, the accessibility, seismic noise sources in the region, because sometimes if you have like a lot of trees, it will give you unwanted noise for your record of seismicity. Or if it is near to the river, then it will give you like continuous noise that will decrease the sensitivity of your instrument to detect the volcanic earthquakes. And you need also to consider the land ownership, because sometimes, because if you don't have the permission to use that land when you install it, in the future it could be an issue. You install that in one place, and that's that was belong to someone else, and when they find it, and then they will destroy it, and you will lose your seismometers. So land use issues need to be considered as well. And also the climatic conditions, you need to also to consider that. At volcanoes, you know, it's the corrosion factors are our main enemy for the instruments. So we need to think about or to design stations that may decrease these destructive conditions to our instrument. And also we need to consider the data and power into our considerations. The power means that because we install it on the field, then we need like a solar panel as our source of power. And then you need to find something like clear sky. You don't install it just beneath the tree, of course, because it will be beside you will have a lot of noises and also you will have less sun exposures. So the preferable sites for this is grade 5, of course. Grade 5, the magnetic rocks, with S-wave velocity more than 2,500. That will be nice. And then if you have like less, because you have no other choice, then you have to accept that the sensitivity of your record may be decreasing. So that's for the site selection. And the second one is the seismic fault development. So we need to enhance the sensitivity of our stations, and also we want to reduce the unwanted noise. So this seismic fault design must consider that factors. So we also, this is an example of our seismic fault at Ijen Volcano that we have built in 2010, I think. And so we dig like a hole. Yeah. So the depth was around maybe like, in reality it was like almost 2 meters, I think. Yeah. So and so we make a seismic pier just below and the center of that station, and so we also need to make a drainage pipe around the seismometer, because if it rains, then the water will not destroy your instrument. So it will go to the pipe. That's the idea. And we have to minimize the use of metals or steel, because it will disturb the recording. And the better station is that if you have you can maintain the temperature inside the station. So similar, because the temperature may change the records of your seismic record. So if you can manage to arrange the temperature of the stations, then it will be good for your record. So we use, for example, like normally like isolating styrofoam, and also we add some wooden floor in the upper part, so that we can maintain we try to maintain similar temperature inside the station. So that's the seismic fault development. And if or when this have been developed, the third is the installation. So the installation is like the final steps. So installation means that you install the seismometers, but also you have to install the telemetry system. So because we don't want to go and back to that volcano just to download, except if this is for the research purposes. But if you want to monitor the volcano, it is more cost effective if you do a telemetry system. Because by doing this, you don't have to go to the field to download your data, because the data will be sent directly to the observatory or to the office that you are working on. And you will have the stream of data continuously over time. So, and this is an example of our station in Indonesia. So, for example, on the top right, you see that inside the box of the station, you have the seismometer and also the digitizer and also the regulator for the solar panel and also the batteries. See that between the seismic pier of the seismometer, there are rounded by the ground. So that ground, the function is that if there are water coming inside, it will go straight to the ground, not affecting the seismometer. So that's the idea. And then when we have set up all of this, then we will have our data stream in our observatory. And to do the installation, normally the most crucial thing is that you need to ensure that all instruments are checked before the installation. Not checked on the volcano, but checked when you are in the office. Check everything, and if everything is okay, then you can climb and bring your instruments. Because it takes time to climb the volcano. Sometimes you have to climb like tens of hours to get to the station's location. And if you go there and then your instrument is not running, it means that you need to come back and bring back the instruments, and then you have to go back again and install the station. So as it takes time to climb the volcano, don't want to go back without success, of course. And so preparation needs to be done well in the beginning. So this is an example of the records of the station. So the Z component and the N and also the E component. So the preferable seismometer is a 3D seismometer. So we have like three channels of seismic data: the up, down, or the Z channel, the north and south channel, and also the east and west channel. So if you ask what type of seismometers do we need? So the question, it depends on the goal you want to achieve. If you are, for example, people who works on the microzonations of microtremors or of earthquakes, for example, you will need short period seismometers. But if you want to work at volcanoes, you might need, or you certainly will go with the broadband seismometers. What are the differences between these seismometers? It is not that the broadband seismometers are better than the short period seismometers, but it depends on what technique that you will apply on certain things. Like I mentioned before, that if you want to work on the noise of H/V ratio in earthquake seismology, for example, you want to work on the HVSR, horizontal to vertical spectral ratio. Then the blue one, or the short period seismometers, is your preferable instrument. But if you need more accuracy or sensitivity in the low frequency content, then you need to go to the broadband seismometers. Why? So during my PhD, I do the research on several seismometers, and so we can see that for the broadband seismometers on the left, see that the frequency range until 0.01 is relatively flat. So it's flat, so it means that the response is good from the very low frequency up to like 10 hertz. So, and after that, you will have like a less sensitivity. But for the short period seismometers, see that here you have the, I will show you, the flat or the good response in a higher frequency content. So it's more than 1 hertz to almost 100 hertz. You have like a flat response, which is good for you who work on this frequency bands. So like I said, if which one is better for you, it depends on the frequency interest. If you prefer to work on this frequency range, then use the broadband. But if you prefer to work on this frequency range, then use the short period. So it is not which one is better or which one is bad. There is no better or bad in this particular area. So here you just need to understand what frequency of interest that you are working. Okay, but for us, for volcano seismology, for volcano seismologists, we will prefer the broadband seismometers. Why? Because most volcanic earthquakes have low frequency content. So that is why, so that we need the broadband seismometers more than the short period seismometers. But if, for example, the broadband seismometers are more expensive than short period seismometers, and then you cannot afford to buy the broadband seismometers, then it's okay if you use the short period seismometers. It will just limit your analysis in terms of frequency content. So, and then after we have like the monitoring station set up, the next setup is that you need to set up a network. So what I showed you before is just one station. Then you have to have more stations. If you want to have insights into the volcanoes, then you must have more stations. So these are an example from Merapi. Merapi have, I think they have like 70 stations. So the most complete or most equipped volcanoes in Indonesia. And then afterwards, from the stations, we need to manage the data because the data need to be transmitted. So here you see that you have to consider the power system. This is important. So the power system is installed in the field nearby the stations, and then also the antenna transmission, and then it will be sent to closest locations. For example, the observatory, and then it will be streamed into another application. For example, for Guralp, you have Scream Server, or you can also have the SeisComp3, or Earthworm, or Saffron, or other things. But the idea is that with this application, you will have a chance to have a database, a seismic database. So with a seismic database, it will help you in the further steps, it will help you to analyze the activity. So here, for example, I will show you the annotations. So like the seismic, you have like broadband seismometer, short period seismometer, geophone, and then it will be it will goes to this acquisition system. Then it will goes to another system. For example, it will move to database, and also as it is connected to the database, we can develop methodologies to analyze the seismic data. And you can use this data without having all the data inside your computer, because seismic data is not a small size data. It's not a TXT or notepad size data. It's terabytes data. So if you have like years of data, then you will have terabytes of data, and it will consume your PC hard disk if you don't have some sufficient spaces. So it is preferable that you have a database, so that on your PC you only have to have the application to analyze the data, while the data itself can be just put inside in the server. And so after this, after the analysis, we can disseminate our information to the public. So, for example, like this, we have in Indonesia, we have Magma Indonesia, and so also we have a SMS blast or SMS broadcast or WhatsApp and others. So the mitigation of volcanic hazards are very complex. It's not only like telling the public what to do, but you need to install all of these to get what you want. So, and we will move further. So the key word on this slide is that good analysis comes only from good data. So even if you have you are a prominent seismologist with many methods you have acquired, or you understand many methods, and then you analyze the data. But if the data is bad, then there is nothing can be believed from your analysis. So good data is the key for good analysis. And good data and good analysis is the key for a good decision making. Decision making means that for forecasting and also for giving the early warning for the public. So that's the background. We move. So I don't. We can have a question and answer session now.
Yes, Pak Devy.
Yeah.
Some short break and question and answer session.